here we are in the video notes for question 15. Okay, and here we're going to talk about solving inequalities. So we talked about all the different symbols and what they mean. Now, we can solve inequalities just the same way that we solve equations. There's two important differences from equations, right? So normally we actually just solve inequalities exactly like we solve equations, but there's just two differences, okay? One is that we want to finish with the variable on the left. Okay, so in an equation, if I got like sometimes I would get x equals 5, and sometimes I would get 5 equals x, and they were the same. They were both fine. I just leave them like that. Okay, but with an inequality, if I get like this, 5 is greater than x, it's hard to think about the value of x. It's much easier for us to think about it if I take this and I flip the whole thing around, right? So like, see how the mouth is open towards the 5? When I flip it around, my mouth is still open towards the 5. So at the end, we're just going to flip it around, right? So like, if we get something like this, we're going to change it, flip the whole thing around. I flip the x around, I flip the sign around, I flip the 5 around, right? This says x is less than 5. Well, that's a little easier to think about. Like, okay, well, x is less than 5. Okay, now x could be 4, x could be 3. So we just like the variable on the left because it's like a way better way to think about the value of that variable. Okay, so this is just, the only thing you need to remember here is always flip it at the end if necessary. Okay, now the other difference between equations and inequalities is that we need to, the equal sign doesn't flip around, right? Like the equal sign looks like this, and if you just flip it this way, it still just looks the same. But this symbol, when you flip it around, it means something else, right? This means less than, this means greater than, this means less than. So when we flip them, they mean different things. So we flip that sign if we multiply or divide by a negative number. Okay, if we multiply or divide by a negative number, we flip the sign around. Okay, you'll see it in one of my examples. I'm going to just do 2 quick examples just so you can kind of see these two differences, and then you're going to have a chance to try it out. 8 is greater than 3n minus 1. Okay, so I go to solve this. I solve it just like an equation. So I think to myself, oh, here's the variable n. I need n by itself. So it's being multiplied and subtracted. So I'm going to go ahead and add 1 to both sides. I get 9, and I almost wrote an equal sign, right? Just remember to not lose that inequality sign. 3n. Then I'm going to say, oh, n is being multiplied by 3, so I divide by 3. And I get 3 is greater than n. And here's where I think to myself, oh, I have one more step to do, right? Because I need to finish with this variable on the left. So I'm just going to flip this around. So I'm going to say, okay, n, I'm going to put the 3 over here, and then make sure you flip this sign, right? See how the mouth is open towards the 3 right now? The mouth still needs to be open towards the 3. And here is my answer. N is less than 3, okay? You should never type this as your answer. Okay, so that's kind of the first difference. But notice otherwise I solved it just like an equation. Let's show you one more example. Okay, again, I have something that looks kind of like an equation. I say, okay, this x is being multiplied by negative 5, and I'm subtracting 1. I'm going to go ahead and add 1 to both sides. Now this is, oops, this is a mistake I always make. I write an equal sign because I'm just so used to it. This x is now being multiplied by negative 5, right? This x is being multiplied by negative 5. So in order to get rid of this, I'm going to divide by negative 5. And as soon as you write something like this, divided by negative, you should be like, oh my God, I have to remember, right? Like that should kind of like set off a little alarm in your head where you're like, okay, I need to flip this sign around, right? So here, notice the point is towards the x. So I'm going to flip it around. Okay, I'm flipping the whole thing around. It's still or equal to, right? This was less than or equal to, now it's greater than or equal to. This is 10 divided by negative 5. That's negative 2. And my variable's already on the left, and I'm done. Okay? And just think about like the